It's emergency. Hi, I've just found a body.
Alright, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may have a defence. Do not mention one question, something which you later rely on court. Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once we're in the cuffs.
The car stank, didn't it, Gemma?
No comment.
Stunk of a dead person.
No comment.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Gemma?
No comment.
The only sentence which the court can impose for murder is one of life imprisonment.
Before we get into this case, let me just say I'm Harley. This is all I'm saying is, here we tell stories. More often than not, they're based on true crime, but I do the strange and fiction stories whenever I've got the time. Before we start, there is a very important disclaimer we must make. This is a true crime. Therefore, it's a real story involving real people, and then real people have real families. So I do want you to comment, and I do want you to share it, but please be a little bit sensitive as you do so. Jemma Mitchell was born on the 22nd of July, 1984. While growing up in Australia, her mum worked for the UK's Foreign and Commonwealth Office. After her parents' marriage ended when she was 2-year-old, Jemma and her mum and her sister emigrated to the UK. While in the UK, she studied at King Edward's School, Whitley, in Wormley, Surrey, England. Then in 2004, she attended King's College London to study a human science degree. Her degree included a course called Structural Basics of Human Functioning, during which students learned to dissect the human body. Another module of the degree included experimental anatomy. While studying, she showed that much skill and knowledge, she was awarded the Hamilton Prize for Anatomical Excellence and graduated with a first-class honours. She went on from that to study osteopathy at the British School of Osteopathy. Osteopathy is the alternative medicine that emphasises on physical manipulation of the body's muscle tissues and bones. After her studies, Jemma returned to Australia and set herself up as an osteopath. In 2015, Jemma then moved back to England, but she still owned property in Australia, Helensvale, Queensland to be precise. While back in the UK, Jemma wasn't registered with the General Osteopathic Council, so she wasn't legally allowed to practice in the UK. She was living with her mum and her sister. Her mum was now retired, and the house they were living in was reportedly worth £4 million. It had been owned by the family for generations, but now it was in a state of disrepair. The house's condition wasn't the biggest issue though. Jemma had a very turbulent relationship with her sister. That much so that in 2016 she was convicted for breaching a non-molestation order which related to her sister and brother-in-law. A non-molestation order is a type of injunction that can be sought by a victim of domestic abuse against their abuser. Jemma Mitchell was a Christian, and she loved the Bible. Some sources say she was always reading the Bible. In spring 2018, a congregation gathered for divine healing at a North London church. It was here that Jemma announced in front of some 300 evangelical Christians that she wanted to be exorcised of their demons. As the pastor leading the service placed his hand upon her head, she began to shake and cry, then scream hysterically before falling dramatically to the floor. A former best friend, who we'll briefly mention later, said it was like something out of a horror film. What I saw completely freaked me out. She asked for everyone to pray for her and heal her, but when she started screaming, people were shocked. It was about August 2020 when Jemma Mitchell first met Mee Kuen Chong. She was also known as Deborah, which I find quite interesting. It's a very, very different name, but I do understand why she chose a more Western name. The two of them met at the church, and they'd both been described as devout Christians. It didn't take long before they became good friends. Mee was originally from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. She'd lived in London for about 30 years, and she was a widow. She suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and was taking antipsychotic medication to manage the condition. It was said that she believed Jemma was curing her of her paranoid schizophrenia with spiritual healing. It was also said that she believed she had a relationship with Prince Charles and that she could communicate with him via YouTube, which is quite interesting. I wonder how that would work. I'm not being mocking or anything. I'm genuinely curious how in her mind that communication worked. Did she just comment on random videos? I don't get it. In 2021, Mee had been exhibiting erratic behaviour and was referred by the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre to a local community mental health team. because she was sending letters to Prince Charles, now King Charles, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The doctor said the contents of her letters contained nothing alarming, but they were bizarre, suggesting that she was having another episode of mental illness. Another friend who attended the church with me described her as having a sweet and childlike nature. She was only 5 foot 2 inches tall and slim. Jemma and her mum's house were full. The rooms were crammed full with stuff, the extent that some rooms weren't even possible to enter, they were that full of stuff. There were boxes and suitcases, even freezers full of food, and old mattresses. The kitchen was dirty and messy, with rotten food on the stove and paperwork covering all the surfaces. The bathroom was stained and in poor state of repair. So Jemma and her mum had planned to make improvements to the property, and they were going to add another floor to the house. But once they employed these builders, they were cheated out of £230,000 by these two builders who had died for the project. They left the work unfinished, and the house was left without a roof, and it was covered in scaffolding. Mee agreed to give Jemma £200,000, and they texted about this on WhatsApp. But later, Mee took the offer back, suggesting Jemma should sell the house and enjoy the money instead. There were a series of WhatsApp messages between them in April. In one message, Mee said, "Sell it, enjoy the money, life is too short. Enjoy the moment." Then in another, she put, "More construction will cost more money you don't have." Then on the 8th of June 2021, Mee told Jemma, "Until you sold house, I won't want you to come to me or my house. I am stressed to the core." Despite that message, on the morning of the 11th of June 2021, just a couple days after, Jemma travelled to Mee's house in Wembley, North London, carrying a large blue suitcase. She arrived at 1 minute past 8 in the morning. She then killed Mee and put her body into the suitcase, breaking Mee's ribs in the process. Just over 5 hours later, she left the house, taking the suitcase with her. Jemma took the suitcase home and stored it in the garden for 2 weeks. She also stole documents from Mee's house, and together with documents stolen from a recently deceased neighbour, she attempted to forge a will, leaving 95% of Mee's £700,000 estate to herself. In the words of a document, to be applied to the benefit of Jemma's projects, with the remaining 5% of the will left to Jemma's mum. Something that I found interesting, and it says a lot about Mee, is that she told a male friend, who also went to the same church, that she intended on leaving the house to the homeless. Mee had last been seen alive on the 10th of June. It was by a lodger, and there is CCTV of them together on that day. And then the next day, the lodger reported her missing. As a close friend, Jemma was questioned by the police about Mee's whereabouts, and she said she'd been feeling depressed and she'd gone to stay with some family friends somewhere close to the ocean. At some point within 2 weeks of killing Mee, Jemma had made a report by email to a missing persons charity. She also sent a WhatsApp message to Mee's lodger, saying that Mee had gone to spend some time with her family for about a year. She'd gone to clear her head, and she'd been in contact with Jemma to say that she felt neglected and she would be staying with her family by the sea. 2 weeks after Mee's disappearance, Jemma reactivated a deceased neighbour's mobile phone and used it to hire a car using a fake name. On the 26th of June 2021, she drove 200 miles to Salcombe in Devon, and that was to dispose of Mee's body. She dumped Mee's body on a woodland path near Bennett Road. The body, with its head missing, was found by some holidaymakers the following day.
It's emergency. Hi, I just found a body.
Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency?
I just found a body.
Right, okay. A body, is it... Are they breathing?
No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something, with some flies and stuff.
Right, okay. Bear with me a second. Let's pop this on.
What's the road?
Yeah, what road are you on?
I'm in Salcombe.
You're in Salcombe, sorry. Let me have a look. I can populate, hopefully, where you are. So, Bennett Road, are you quite near the harbour?
We're up from North Sand Beach. Hang on, we'll just look at Google Maps.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I can see North Sand Bay. Bennett Road, yeah, you are on Bennett Road.
At the scene was also Mee's handbag, containing a length of rope, which matched some rope that had been found at Jemma's house. Mee's body was also found with a business card for an evangelical church, and scraps of paper bearing excerpts from the Bible. Obviously, the police's first job was to find Mee's head, and 4 days later, they found it. It was about 10 metres away from where the rest of her body had been. It were in some undergrowth. Mee was 67 years old when she died, and her body was too badly decomposed to determine the cause of death. However, post-mortem did find that she'd received a fracture to the skull. Jemma Mitchell was arrested on the 6th of July 2021 and later charged with Mee's murder.
Police! Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. There's no answer. Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, we're asleep.
Are you Jemma?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Jemma. Just could you hold a second?
Sure.
Come on a second.
Sorry, can I ask Gemma, do you want to come out? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just want to see them.
Hand just so your hands. Alright, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may have a defence. Do you want to mention one question, something which you later rely in court? Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once we're in the cuffs.
Am I allowed to?
I'll go explain everything to you. Okay?
Should I get some
Yeah,
shoes?
sorry.
Then?
What?
If you want to one sec.
Inside?
Who's inside at the moment?
Mother.
Your mother? Okay.
Is it?
If you want to... Oh, someone lift that up.
Yeah. Let's step back inside.
Is anyone else inside? Just your mum?
Yeah.
There is someone else inside,
No,
or just your
that's
mum?
just my mum, yeah.
Alright, do you want to... Should I bring her out, or...
Bring her in.
Bring her in?
For a minute.
Well,
yeah.
we're just going to come in for a sec, okay?
Sure.
During a police interview, she reportedly made no comment.
And they've said that the person driving the Volvo waited in the car all that time with the windows down and the front door open, the passenger door open, when it was literally chucking it down with rain and it was windy. Why is that, Jemma?
No comment.
The car stank, didn't it, Jemma?
No comment.
Stunk of a dead person.
No comment.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Jemma?
No comment.
Then on the 28th of September, Jemma pled not guilty. On the 11th of October 2022, in courtroom 12 of the Old Bailey, the court went through Jemma's past, including her qualifications and past work. It was also pointed out that a professional website described her as attuned to subjects in neuroanatomy, genetics, and dissection of human cadavers. And of course, it was mentioned in court that Mee had been killed after changing her mind about the money. There were lots of CCTV evidence used in court. One clip showed Jemma arriving at Mee's house with a blue suitcase, then emerging with it again, looking a lot bulkier and a lot heavier. She also had a second and smaller bag which contained the stolen documents. She was then captured walking through London with her bags for at least 2 hours before being picked up by a taxi for the rest of her journey home. It was reported that she'd called 9 different cab companies before a driver collected her for that 25-minute journey home. The driver did ask what was in the heavy suitcase, and Jemma told him it were mainly books. The court was told later that evening she attended St Thomas's Hospital in central London with a broken finger. She claimed she'd injured it by trapping it in a door. The court was also told that the Volvo car that Jemma had hired to transport Mee's body to Devon blew a tyre during the journey. She pulled into a co-op garage near Salcombe and called for assistance. The AA repairman who came to her aid said she seemed confused, stating she was having to repeat herself, and I had to repeat myself quite a lot to her. She was really intense, as if she was looking straight through you. She just didn't seem to hear anything I was saying, didn't seem to be registering. He also said there was an odd smell from the vehicle. It was very musty smell, as if someone is staying overnight, living in the vehicle, with all the windows up, with no ventilation or airflow. A very odd smell. It was not something I'd smelt before. Mee's body was discovered at the bottom of a set of steps. In addition to the head, the first 2 bones that form the spine, as well as the larynx, at the front of the neck, were missing. The larynx is the voice box. A pathologist testified that complex injuries to her skull could have been sustained by either being pushed into a protruding surface or by a weapon, but the court heard that no weapon was found. It was also said that Mee would have fitted into the suitcase with or without her head, so it's not quite sure why she decapitated her, but she did. During a search of Jemma's home, the police found the forged will. They also noticed a wall calendar with an entry written by Jemma. It was for the 26th of June. That's the day that she drove to Salcombe. Written in 2 different inks, it read, 8 AM, collect body back, C, letter 2, copy 2, HR walk. So I assume that's 8 AM, collect body. Don't know what back C letter means. Will copy, no idea. And then obviously 2 HR is 2 hour walk. So it does seem there that if she wrote it after or before, she's documenting that she will or did do a 2-hour walk back before she got the taxi. Either which way, the suitcase was discovered on the roof of a neighbour's shed. But the trial heard that no DNA from Mee was found inside the suitcase. However, a blood-stained tea towel was discovered in the suitcase's pocket, and that did contain Mee's DNA. Jemma declined to give evidence in her defence to the court, so the defence was argued on her behalf. Her defence team pushed that not only was there no DNA evidence to back up claims that Mee had been put into a suitcase, but there was also no evidence of a struggle at Mee's house. But the prosecution countered that by claiming Jemma's finger that had been broken was evidence of a struggle. Jemma's defence also claimed that the value of her property, which if you remember is about £4 million, and her £93,000 in personal savings, meant Jemma didn't have a financial motive to kill. But I mean, come on, the fact that Mee pulled out of the offer of giving her almost £250,000 sounds like a financial motive to me. On the 21st of October 2022, the jury was sent to consider the case. It only took them 7 hours of deliberation, and on the 27th of October 2022, Jemma Mitchell was convicted of murder. Reporters described Jemma as appearing passive as she heard the verdict. After the verdict, it was reported that the sentencing phase of the trial would be televised, making Jemma Mitchell the first convicted murderer in England and Wales to be sentenced live on television, as well as the first woman in the UK to have her sentence filmed, and only the second sentencing to be filmed in England and Wales since laws changed to permit cameras into court. The hearing took place at the Old Bailey on the 28th of October 2022. Following Jemma Mitchell's conviction, her mother continued to maintain Jemma's innocence, claiming the suitcase had not contained a body, but crockery, cutlery and tea towels, and claimed that Jemma would appeal against the conviction. Notice there how she says that's what were in the suitcase, but Jemma told the taxi driver it were books. In a later media interview, she claimed that Jemma was a silly girl who is really, really bright but messed up, and that the police believed her to be the killer because she washed the blue suitcase. Now, for the sentencing, I'm going to let the judge read out what was said. It was a 15-minute statement, so I've taken bits out to shorten it down drastically. If you're interested in watching the full statement, I have uploaded it. I have also uploaded the emergency services call, the body cam from the police when they arrested her, the CCTV footage as well. They're in 2 separate videos, so feel free to go and watch that separately. I'll link them into the description.
As has no doubt been explained to you by your counsel, the only sentence which the court can impose for murder is one of life imprisonment. But I am required to fix a minimum term which you must serve in any event before you would be eligible to be considered for parole. I am in no doubt whatsoever, and your counsel realistically acknowledges it, that this was a murder done for gain, and as such, pursuant to Schedule 21 of the Sentencing Act 2020, the starting point must be one of 30 years imprisonment. You are now 38 years of age. You have one minor previous conviction for breach of a non-molestation order, which arose in a domestic context. I propose to ignore that and to treat you as a woman of effective previous good character. The sole mitigation is that you are effectively a woman of previous good character, although given the gravity of your crime, in my judgment, that entitles you to only a very modest discount. As to aggravating features, there are the following. Firstly, the amount of planning and premeditation that went into this offence, although it is right to acknowledge that this is bound to be an invariable feature of a killing done for gain, and I must avoid double counting in that regard. Secondly, there is the issue of Deborah's mental and physical vulnerability, to which I have already referred, and of which you were very well aware. Thirdly, there is the chilling aspect of what you did to and with her body after you had killed her. You have shown absolutely no remorse, and it appears that you are in complete denial as to what you did, notwithstanding what, in my judgment, amounted to overwhelming evidence against you. The enormity of your crime is profoundly shocking, even more so given your apparent religious devotion, as well as the fact that Deborah Chong was a good friend to you and had shown you great kindness. The sentence of the court is one of life imprisonment, and the minimum term of imprisonment that you will in any event be required to serve will be 34 years. There will be deducted from that term the 475 days that you have spent in custody on remand, and the statutory surcharge will apply. Would you please take the defendant downstairs?
Now that's all I've got for you. Now, looking back at this woman's history and knowing so much about her, I can't shake the feeling that she is a psychopath. And I do believe that she'd have done it again. She quite possibly could become, if she hasn't already, a serial killer. Unfortunately, she still hasn't pled guilty. So there is a lot of questions left unanswered. For example, why did she decapitate her head? Was it just because she wanted to? I.e. because she's a psychopathic serial killer? Why did she take the remains to Salcombe? Before that, why did she even keep the body for 2 weeks? Now, I am sorry if you have heard this before. I did look it up, and I was quite surprised that it hadn't been covered as much as it has. And then before I posted it, I realised it has been posted quite a lot. So I do apologise. But it's a new case, and I wanted to cover it. I'm sorry I didn't cover it earlier. A last little bit of information as well. After the arrest, a woman came forward to talk to the media, 18 years younger, and she claimed that Jemma and her used to be really good friends, even best friends. But that ended because, despite the age gap, Jemma had been trying to text her ex-boyfriend and steal him off her. And again, I think that just shows how selfish of an ideology Gemma's got. She doesn't care at the cost of anybody else. She just wants what she wants. Let me know what you think down below. I have filmed this very differently. I've recorded the audio rather than filming myself. So we'll see how it goes. If it's, well, done, then I'll do it again. If not, I'll go back to how I usually film it. See you next week, guys. Bye.